Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
And welcome. Thank you for joining us for Curiosity Chill, where we chill and learn about things we're curious about.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. And thank you to everybody last week who polled the topic that we would study today. And at the end of today's stream, we will poll another subject to see what we'll study together on next Tuesday's Curiosity Chill.
Yeah.
And today we are studying the Indigenous people of North America. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Vices and Discos starting us off strong with some gift sub group hug love. You love to see it. We love to see it. Thank you. Some sparkles for everyone. Look at
Hello,
that.
everybody. Thank you so much for the good wishes.
Yeah, I see also, I see a lot of new people here today. If you're here on stream with us for the very first time, will you shout yourself out?
Like Midium.
I see you, Midium. How you doing? Type something in the chat and just say, I'm here. Let me know. This is like a roll call, but for everybody at the same time. Jacob Hill, thank you for being here. Appreciate the gifted sub to Corey Roma. Welcome back, friends. Totally new. Some of you totally lying. You love these streams. Well, we're glad you can be here. Terazka, what a cool name. Thank you guys all for being here. And Talak, welcome back for 13 months. And Sarah's Angel, thank you for the cheers. They're all sending some positive vibes to Amelia, who's feeling much better. Thank you guys.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right? And Mage Sun, welcome back for 9 months. That's a Twitch baby. Raise it up right. Teach it to vote. That's right. Voting is super important. Sunflower Danny, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you. Sending all this love to the chat. Angzilla back for 21 months.
Wow.
And Nikiro's got it. Oh, Twitch baby too. There you go. Nice. There you go. Sends all the love and goodness. Appreciate that goodness. And Tim without the numbers, welcome back for 13 months.
YouTube Love 15 is here for their first Tuesday Curiosity Chill.
Thank you. Well, the way these work is we do the streams on mic only so that we can share our research with you guys. Everything we're reading from will be up on the screen. And today we have an awesome article that Amelia has found from history.com. And history.com mods is the one we're going to share first. The moderators will share the link in the chat with you guys if you'd like to read ahead or read it later or read it in more depth. But historychannel.com always has some good info.
Yes. And Electine, thank you so much for the gift sub group hug.
Yo, thank you very much. Electine, appreciate you.
And Leslie Red Roadie's back for 33 months, and same with UK fangirl Jade.
Oh, did you guys know that you're month twins?
Aww.
Aww. It's Broccoli. Welcome back for 3 months. So we are going to get into this. I think there is so much information on these pages that we may not even scratch the surface. So if you guys want to explore on your own, I definitely recommend checking out further reading on this history.com link.
Yes.
So shall we, Amelia? Oh, I do have one thing I got to share. One thing that's not immediately connected to our chill stream, but it is brand new news and you guys are here for it. ! Artist Alley in the chat. Amelia and I are going to be doing a special stream, series of streams coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. We're having our own yet-to-be-named Dechart Games show.
Convention.
Yeah, it's an online digital convention where we are teaming up with some really cool folks like a group called Games Made in France, which is allowing us to premiere bunch of different games. We're going to be featuring over 21 different games over Friday and Sunday streams. All the games made in France, where we can demo the beginning of the games. Some of them are like beta and alpha builds, so we're going to get a peek behind the scenes of how these indie games are coming together.
Yes.
And some other games that you all are very familiar with, perhaps like Deathloop, some major games in there, as well as awesome indie games. And on Saturday, in between those two, we're going to be doing a Streamily signing, and the whole weekend we want to feature your artwork. So to all of you who make art, have commissions open, can be any kind of creative medium, We want to feature you guys on our Discord, and if you'd like to submit your link to either your commissions or to your store, whatever your shop, however you do business as a creative person, put it together in that form, and then we are going to be featuring those all on our Discord in a public channel that anybody and everybody can come stop by and do like a digital walk down Artist Alley. What? Indeed.
So excited.
Thank you to everybody who's supported that idea, especially our Discord team, and we're really, really, really excited to see what you guys are all working on.
Also, Llama Lupe, thank you so much for the gifts of group hug.
Yo, thank you, Llama Lupe. I appreciate that.
All right, let's get into this.
It. All right. Bloop.
Native American cultures. Many thousands of years before Christopher Columbus's ship landed in the Bahamas, a different group of people discovered America, the nomadic ancestors of modern Native Americans who hiked over a land bridge from Asia to what is now Alaska more than 12,000 years ago.
In fact, by the time European adventurers arrived in the 15th century AD, scholars estimate that more than 50 million people were already living in the Americas. Of these, some 10 million lived in the area that would become the United States. As time passed, these migrants and their descendants pushed south and east, adapting as they went.
In order to keep track of these diverse groups, anthropologists and geographers have divided them into culture areas, or rough grouping of contiguous people who shared similar habitats and characteristics. Most scholars break North America, including present-day Mexico, into 10 separate culture areas: the Arctic, the subarctic, the Northeast, the Southeast, the Plains, the Northwest, the Great Basin, California, the Northwest Coast, and the Plateau.
Wow. Also, amazing that California is so big it has its own zone. So we're going to learn about the people who natively inhabit the land that we are literally streaming to you from right now.
Yes.
So if you guys see the region, if we have anybody tuning in from the States, go ahead and shout yourself out, and let's learn more about the original peoples of the places we all live. And Leslie Red Roadie, thank you very much for that 5 gifted subs. Appreciate your support. The Arctic. The Arctic culture area, a cold, flat, treeless region, usually a frozen desert, actually, near the Arctic Circle, is present-day Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. It was home to the Inuit and Aleut. Both groups spoke and continue to speak dialects descended from what scholars call Eskimo-Aleut language family. Oh, I see you all. Thank you guys for being here, tuning in from all around Pennsylvania and Florida. We got Connecticut, or we're covering all the corners of the map. Because it is such an inhospitable landscape, I guess there's probably not many of you tuning in from the Arctic. The population there was comparatively small and scattered. Some of its peoples, especially the Inuit in the northern parts of the region, were nomads, following seals, polar bears, and other game as they migrated across the tundra. And fun fact, we studied bears on our previous Curiosity stream. Those are all being uploaded onto YouTube if you guys want to watch any of our past Curiosity chills. In the southern part of the region, the Aleut were a bit more settled, living in small fishing villages along the shore. Did you know? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are 4.5 Native Americans and Alaska Natives in the United States today. That's about 1.5% of the population. The Inuit and Aleut had a great deal in common. Many lived in dome-shaped houses made of sod or timber, or in the north, ice blocks. They used seal and otter skins to make warm, weatherproof clothing, aerodynamic dog sleds, and long, open fishing boats, kayaks in Inuit, and bardakars in Aleut. By the time the United States purchased Alaska in 1867, decades of oppression and exposure to European diseases had taken their toll. The native population had dropped to just 2,500. The descendants of these survivors still make their home in this area today. And just south of the Arctic is, Amelia?
The subarctic. The subarctic culture area, mostly composed of swampy, piney forests and waterlogged tundra, stretch across much of the inland Alaska and Canada. Scholars have divided the region's people into two language groups, the Athabascan speakers and in the Athabascan speakers at its western end, among them the Satine Beaver, Gwich'in or Kuchin, and the Deg Zying, formally and pejoratively known as the Ingalik. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. I'm like so self-conscious.
This is the first time you've read these words.
I know.
The Algonquin speakers in its eastern end, including the Cree, Ojibwa, and Nassakapi.
Okay. And if and when I mispronounce, please let me know how to pronounce it properly. In the subarctic, travel was difficult. Toboggans, snowshoes, and lightweight canoes were the primary means of transportation, and population was sparse. In general, the people of the subarctic did not form large permanent settlements. Instead, small family groups stuck together as they traipsed after herds of caribou. They lived in small, easy-to-move tents, lintos, and when it grew too cold to hunt, they hunkered underground in dugouts. The growth of the fur trade in the 17th and 18th centuries disrupted the subarctic way of life. Now, instead of hunting and gathering for sustenance, the Native Americans focused on supplying pelts to the European traders, and eventually led to the displacement and extermination of many of the region's native communities.
You're doing great, Amelia. You got a lot of love flowing through that chat right there. The Northeast. Do we have anybody who's tuning in from the Northeast? The Northeast culture area, one of the first to have sustained contact with Europeans, stretched from present-day Canada's Atlantic coast to North Carolina and inland to the Mississippi River, or the Mississippi River Valley. Its inhabitants were members of two main groups, Iroquoian speakers. These included the Cayuga, Oneida, Erie, Onondaga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. Most of them lived along inland rivers and lakes, in fortified, politically stable villages, and more numerous Algonquin speakers. These included the Pequot, Fox, Shawnee, Wampanoag, Delaware, and Menominee, who lived in small farming and fishing villages along the ocean. There, they grew crops like corn, beans, and vegetables. Thank you guys for helping us with this pronunciation. If you recognize it, I see Oneida. Oneida? Maybe Oneida?
Oneida, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to get it phonetically, and I feel like that gets us most of the way, but I'm sure we're not getting them all correct. Life in the Northeast culture area was already fraught with conflict. The Iroquoian groups tended to be rather aggressive and warlike, and bands and villages outside of their allied confederacies were never safe from their raids. And it grew more complicated when European colonizers arrived. Colonial wars repeatedly forced the region's indigenous people to take sides, pitting the Iroquois groups against the Algonquin neighbors. Meanwhile, as white settlement pressed westward, it eventually displaced both sets of indigenous people from their lands. Mar Mary, welcome back for 20 months, and Queenie, welcome back for 21. I appreciate you. Amy Versus with the gift sub group hug, thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
And Serenity Moonlight, thank you for being here for 35 months. All right, Amelia, take us to the Southeast.
The Southeast culture area, known north of the Gulf of Mexico and south of the Northeast, was a humid, fertile agricultural region. Many of its natives were expert farmers. They grew staple crops like maize, which is corn,
Yeah, we know that.
beans, squash, tobacco, and sunflower, who organized their lives around small ceremonial and market villages known as hamlets. Perhaps the most familiar of the southeastern indigenous peoples are the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, sometimes called the Five Civilized Tribes, some of them who spoke a variant of Muskegon language. Cool. By the time the U.S. had won its independence from Britain, the southeast culture area had already lost many of its native people due to disease and displacement. In 1830, the Federal Indian Removal Act compelled the relocation of what remained of the five civilized tribes so that white settlers could have their land. So fucked up. Between 1830 and 1838, federal officials forced nearly 100,000 indigenous people out of the southern states and into Indian Territory, later Oklahoma, west of the Mississippi. The Cherokee called this frequently deadly trek the Trail of Tears.
The Plains. The Plains culture area comprised the vast prairie region between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains, from present-day Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Before the arrival of European traders and explorers, its inhabitants, speakers of the Siouan, Siouan, Algonquin, Caddoan, Uto-Aztecan, and the Athabascan languages, were relatively settled hunters and farmers. After European contact, and especially after Spanish colonists brought horses to the region in the 18th century, the peoples of the Great Plains became much more nomadic. Groups like the Crow, Blackfeet, Cheyenne, Comanche, and Arapaho used horses to pursue great herds of buffalo across the prairie. The most common dwelling for these hunters was a cone-shaped teepee, a bison's skin tent that could be folded up and carried anywhere. Plains Indians are also known for their elaborately feathered war bonnets. As white traders and settlers moved across the Plains region, they brought many damaging things with them. Commercial goods, like knives and kettles, which indigenous people came to depend on, guns, and disease. By the end of the 19th century, white sport hunters had nearly exterminated the area's buffalo herds. With settlers encroaching on their lands and no way to make money, the Plains natives were forced onto government reservations. The Southwest.
The people of the Southwest culture area, a huge desert region in the present-day Arizona and New Mexico, along with parts of Colorado, Utah, and Texas and Mexico, developed two distinct ways of life. Sedentary farmers such as the Hopi, the Zuni, the Yukwi, and the Yuma grew crops like corn, beans, and squash. Many lived in permanent settlements known as pueblos, built of stone and adobe. These pueblos featured great multi-story dwellings that resembled apartment houses. At their centers, many of these villages also had large ceremonial pit houses, or kivas. Other southwestern people, such as the Navajo and the Apache, were more nomadic. They survived by hunting, gathering, and raiding their more established neighbors for their crops. Because these groups were always on the move, their homes were much less permanent than the pueblos. For instance, the Navajo fashioned their iconic eastward-facing roundhouses, known as hogans, out of materials like mud and bark. By the time the Southwestern Territories became a part of the United States after the Mexican War, many of the region's native people had already been killed. Spanish colonists and missionaries had enslaved many of the Pueblo Indians, for example, working them to death on vast Spanish ranches known as encomiendas. During the second half of the 19th century, the federal government resettled most of the region's remaining natives onto reservations.
Real quick, there's not any images that go in this article, but I want to pull up these native homes in the Southwest. I think they're absolutely incredible to look at, but these are here. There we go. Look at these. These are adobe homes built into the side of cliffs.
Wow.
To me, this is so incredible. It's like a snapshot of, like, you can just totally imagine this place inhabited. And here, this page is slowly loading. Oh, God.
That's a horrible page.
Wow, this website's from the beginning of websites. Here, I'll just scoot this over on this window. But you guys kind of get this. This is in Colorado, it looks like. But anyway, I just feel like this you can see these are more contemporary buildings in a similar style. But to me, this is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, Pieces of Eden, thank you so much for the gift sub group hug. Sending everybody big hugs right now.
Thank you. The Great Basin. The Great Basin Culture Area, an expansive bowl formed by the Rocky Mountains to the east, the Sierra Nevadas to the west, and Columbia Plateau to the north, and the Colorado Plateau to the south, was a barren wasteland of deserts, salt flats, and brackish lakes. Its people, most of whom spoke Shoshonean or Oto-Aztecan dialects, the Bannock, Plateau, the Ute, for example, foraged for roots, seeds, and nuts, and hunted snakes, lizards, and small mammals. Because they were always on the move, they lived in compact, easy-to-build wickiups made of willow poles or saplings, leaves, and brush. Their settlements and social groups were impermanent. The communal leadership, which little there was informal. After European contact, some Great Basin groups got horses and formed equestrian hunting and raiding bands that were similar to the ones we associate with the Great Plains natives. After white prospectors discovered gold and silver in the region in the mid-19th century, most of the Great Basin's people lost their land and frequently their lives. California.
Before European contact, the temperate, hospitable California area had more people, an estimated 300,000 in the mid-16th century, than any other. It was also more diverse. It's estimated 100 different tribes and groups spoke more than 200 dialects. Wow. These languages derived from Penutian, the Maidu, Miwok, and Yukots, the Hokan, the Chumash, Pomo, Salinas, and Shasta, the Uto-Aztecan, the Tubabulalbal, Serrano, Kinatemuk. Also, many of the mission Indians who had been driven out of the Southwest by Spanish colonization spoke Uto-Aztecian dialects, and Athapascan, the Hupa, among many others. In fact, as one scholar has pointed out, California's linguistic landscape was more complex than that of Europe. Wow. Despite this great diversity, many native Californians lived very similar lives. They did not practice much agriculture. Instead, they organized themselves into small, family-based bands of hunter-gatherers known as tribelets. Intertribelet relationships, based on well-established systems of trade and common rights, were generally peaceful. Spanish explorers infiltrated the California region in the middle of the 16th century. In 1769, the cleric Junipero Serra established a mission in San Diego, inaugurating a particularly brutal period in which forced labor, disease, and assimilation nearly exterminated the culture's native population.
The Northwest Coast. The Northwest Coast culture area along the Pacific coast from British Columbia to the top of Northern California has a mild climate and an abundance of natural resources. In particular, the ocean and the region's rivers provided most everything its people needed. Salmon, especially, but also whales, sea otters, seals, and fish and shellfish of all kinds. As a result, unlike many other hunter-gatherers who struggled to eke out a living and were forced to follow animal herds from place to place, the Indians of the Pacific Northwest were secure enough to build permanent villages that housed hundreds of people apiece. Those villages operated according to a rigid, stratified social structure, more sophisticated than any outside of Mexico and Central America. A person's status was determined by his closeness to the village's chief, and reinforced by the number of possessions, blankets, shells and skins, canoes, and even slaves he had at his disposal. Goods, like these, played an important role in the potlatch, an elaborate gift-giving ceremony designed to affirm these class divisions. Prominent groups in the region included the Athapascan Hadia, the Tlingit, the Penutian Chinook, Tsimshian, and Coos, the Wakashan, Kwaitulu, and Nuchan, I'm going to say the Nootka, and Salishan Coast Salish. The Plateau.
The Plateau culture area sat in the Columbia and Fraser River basins, in the intersection of the subarctic, the plains, the Great Basin, the California, and the Northwest Coast, present-day Idaho, Montana, and eastern Oregon and Washington. Most of its people lived in small, peaceful villages along stream and riverbanks, and survived by fishing for salmon and trout, hunting and gathering wild berries, fruits, and nuts. In the southern Plateau region, the great majority spoke languages derived from Penutian. The Klamath, Klickitat, Modoc, Nez Perce, Walla Walla, Yakima, and Yakama. North of the Columbia River, most, the Skitswish, Coeur d'Alene, Salish, Flathead, Spokane, and Columbia spoke Salishan dialects. In the 18th century, other native groups brought horses to the plateau. The region's inhabitants quickly integrated the animals into their economy, expanding the radius of their hunts and acting as traders and emissaries between the northwest, and the plains. In 1805, the explorers Lewis and Clark passed through the area, followed by increasing number of white settlers. By the end of the 19th century, most of the remaining members of the Plateau tribes had been cleared from the land and resettled in government reservations.
So here is a photo gallery of rare and controversial photos. Shall we?
Sure.
Double Runner's Son, 1900. Photographer Edward S. Curtis of 1868 to 1952 spent over 30 years photographing the 80 tribes west of the Mississippi. In 1912, a show of his work was presented at the New York Public Library and was later reprised in 1994 on the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's discovery of the Americas. The work features Curtis's photos along with the photographer's notes in italics, which he had written on the back of each print.
Blackfoot Encampment, 1899. Curtis's photographs command respect for a group of people that had been marginalized over the span of the 19th century. But the work has also been met with criticism. Some have argued the photos, many of which were staged, present a romanticized version of Native American life by a white photographer.
On the Road, 1900. A Blackfoot picture on the prairies of Montana. In the early days, and closely following the acquisition of the horse, many of the northern plains tribes carried their camp equipment on the travaux. This form of transportation had practically disappeared by the beginning of 1900. It's a beautiful photograph.
Yeah. Evening on the Sound, 1899. The canoe is to the coast Indian what the pony is to the people of the plains. In these picturesque canoes, built from the trunk of great cedars, they travel the whole length of the coast to the mouth of the Columbia to the Yakutat Bay in Alaska. Wow.
Out of the Darkness, 1904. Navajo Indians emerging from the shadows of the high walls of Canyon de Chelly, Arizona, typifying the transition from barbarism to civilization, coming out of the canyon.
I think that's an ad, yeah. Oh. The Wind Doctor, a Navajo medicine man in 1904. The healing ceremonies of the Navajo people are locally called sings, or in other words, a doctor or priest attempts to cure a disease by singing rather than by medicine. The healing ceremonies vary in length from a fraction of a day to 2 great ceremonies of 9 days and nights. These elaborate ceremonies, which have been so fully described by Washington Matthews, are called by him the Night Chant and the Mountain Chant.
Navajo Boy, 1904. Navajo Blanket Weavers, 1904. The Navajo blanket is the most valuable product made by our Indians. Their blankets are now, as of old, woven on the simple, primitive loom, and during the bleak months of winter, the looms are placed in the hogans, or homes, but in the summer they are placed outside in the shade of a tree, or under an improvised shelter of branches.
American Horse, 1906. Sioux Man.
Sheep Mountains, 1905. 3 Sioux Mountain sheep hunters in the Badlands of South Dakota. Wow. Can you imagine traversing all of that? I mean, like, such a different way to get around.
Yeah.
To be existing completely before any kind of path is that the end of it?
No, I think you just keep
it's
clicking forward. Yeah. There you go. An Oasis in the Badlands, 1905. A statuesque, picturesque Sioux chief and his favorite pony at a waterhold and the Badlands of the Dakotas.
Red Cloud. Red Cloud is perhaps as well known in Indian history, and especially in Sioux Indian history, as George Washington in the 13 Colonies. At the present time, he is blind and feeble, but he has a few years before him. His mind, though, is yet keen in spite of 91 years. He enjoys recalling details of the prouder days of his youth.
Yeah, and just to be clear, these captions at the bottom were written by this photographer back in the early 1900s.
Right.
So that's why they feel a little bit...
These were introduced as controversial captions.
Mm-hmm.
The Scout, 1906, an Apache man. And these are agave in the front.
Mm-hmm.
A kind of succulent plant. Getting Water.
1903. An Apache picture. One must know the desert to appreciate the sight of cool, life-giving pool, a murmuring stream.
Apache Baby, 1903. Showing the typical baby carrier of the Apache people.
Sagesh, 1903. An Apache maiden, the manner in which her hair is wrapped with beaded buckskin is the custom followed by the unmarried Apache girl. After marriage, the hair drops loosely down the back.
Hopi Chief. And a Priest. 1900.
Hopi water carriers.
Housetop Life. Hopi women with their iconic hairstyles looking out atop their homes. The hairstyle was created with the help of wooden discs which their hair was fashioned around. The style is said to be the work by unmarried Hopi women, specifically during celebrations of the winter solstice.
All right.
And we're back looped through. There we go. Well, there's a sad commonality among all of these different regions that we learned about here in today's stream. And I'm sure there could be much more learning to be done deeper and deeper down in each of these categories. If you guys would like to check it out, the mods have the links. This was from history.com. They have a whole topics based off Native American history and Native American cultures if you guys would like to explore it further on your own. And what is it?
You want to do this one now?
Well, timing-wise, I think we can check out this here.
Just the first page of it, maybe.
Sure. And so to kind of bring us into the 21st century, this is the NCAI.org, which is the National Congress of American Indians.
Yes. So they maybe scroll down a little bit. About this guide. The Guide of Tribal Nations and the United States, an Introduction, was developed by the National Congress of the American Indians and seeks to provide a basic overview of the history and underlying principles of tribal governance. The guide also provides introductory information about tribal governments and American Indians, the Alaskan Native people today. The purpose of this guide is to ensure that policy decision makers at the local, state, and federal levels understand their relationship to tribal government as part of the American family of governments. Additionally, this guide provides the information necessary for members of the public at large to understand and engage effectively with contemporary Indian nations.
An overview. And if you guys want to check out the full document, the moderators have the link to it and are sharing it in the chat. But this is an overview of the 574 federally recognized Indian nations, variously called tribes, nations, bands, pueblos, communities, and native villages in the United States. Approximately 229 of these ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse nations are located in Alaska, and the other federally recognized tribes are located in 35 other states. Additionally, there are states-recognized tribes located throughout the United States, recognized by their respective state governments. A culture of tribal governments and political relationships. These are the kind of categories within this article, but I'm going to read this first page here. American Indians and Alaskan Natives are members of the original indigenous peoples of North America. Tribal nations have been recognized as sovereigns since their first interaction with European settlers. The United States continues to recognize this unique political status and relationship. A political relationship. Native peoples and governments have inherent rights, and a political relationship with the U.S. government does not derive from any race or ethnicity. Tribal members are citizens of three sovereigns: their tribe, the United States, and the state in which they reside. They are also individuals in an international context with the rights afforded to any other individual.
Tribes as nations. The governmental status of tribal nations is at the heart of nearly every issue that touches Indian country. Self-government is essential if tribal communities are to continue to protect their unique culture and identities. Tribes have the inherent power to govern all matters involving their members, as well as a range of issues in Indian country. The essence of tribal sovereignty is the ability to govern and to protect and enhance the health, safety, and welfare of tribal citizens within tribal territory. Tribal governments maintain the power to determine their own government structures and enforce laws through police departments and tribal courts. The governments exercise these inherent rights through the development of their distinct forms of government, determining citizenship, establishing civil and criminal laws for their nations, taxing, licensing, regulating, and maintaining and exercising the power to exclude wrongdoers from tribal lands. In addition, tribal governments are responsible for a broad range of governmental activities on tribal lands, including education, law enforcement, judicial systems, healthcare, environmental protection, natural resource management, and the development and maintenance of basic infrastructure such as housing, roads, bridges, sewers, public buildings, telecommunications, broadband, and electrical services, and solid waste treatment disposal.
Well, there you have it.
Nice.
So this is a fascinating document. It's huge and free. It's publicly available if you guys would like to download the PDF and learn more. We have only a short time left on today's stream, so I think we should discuss what it is that we'd like to study on our next one. I'm curious if you guys would like to share. Go ahead and type whatever you'd like to study into the chat. Let's pull some topics and discuss together what you want to study. Each Tuesday, Curiosity Chill begins 50 minutes earlier than whatever time it is for you right now.
Ooh, history of vaccines. That's interesting.
Oh, yes. Okay. History of vaccines.
Feeling a lot of love for whales.
Whales.
Fast fashion.
Fast fashion.
I'm
glad you can be here. Thank you guys for studying with us. It is an interesting kind of stream because every stream is something different.
Yes. I'm seeing some love for falconry.
Falconry? Did we do birds of prey?
We did birds of prey.
But not falconry as a sport.
Maybe famous haunted
Ooh,
or ghost stories.
That could be fun. Go for Halloween style.
Yeah.
There we go. That's 5 of them. Let's get a poll going from there. How's
All
the poll work?
So type into the chat what you're interested in learning about next week on Curiosity Chill. Number 1 for the history of vaccines. Number 2 for whales. Number 3 for fast fashion. Number 4 for falconry. And 5 for ghost stories. Thank you all so much for voting. And our Animate, thank you for the gift sub group hug.
Yo, appreciate you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all being here and hanging out with us. Wow, Ghost Stories is gaining and more and more. I mean, it makes sense. It's the season. If you guys also have a game recommendation for us, we are rounding out our playthroughs on our Saturday game, and we're going to need to pick a new game after we complete Mass Effect. This Saturday will be the grand finale. It is also Bingus's birthday / death day. He lived one day, but it's Bingus's birth and death day on Saturday. We hope you can join us. Thank you for the Bingus in the chat. Lyrelia, there it is. Pillow, got it, nailed it. On Sunday, we continue Life is Strange True Colors. Amelia and I are on chapter 3 of that awesome game. Curiosity Chills, as you know, are on Tuesdays, and on Friday we are going to be hanging out, relaxing, all cool, doing something.
Awesome.
And a bonus stream is coming your way a little bit later today. If you're around and would like to join us, make sure you got your notifications turned on, ! Notifications in the chat will show you the way. All right.
That's going to be ghost stories.
That's a ghost story win if I've ever seen it. Cool. Thank you all for being here. Let's put this for next week. Ghost stories. Spooky. I love it. Thank you, everybody, for voting. And we have our mod choice raid. They have found a good old Halloween-y spooky vibe. Back for Blood.
Nice.
Here we go. Let's go show some love. When we get to their channel, please drop as many colorful emotes as you possibly can. And if you like what they're up to, smash that follow button. Let's show some support to some more streamers on Twitch. We really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see some of you later this evening, and the rest of you whenever. ! Artist Alley in the chat if you would like to submit your shop or participate in our upcoming weekend of convention awesomeness. We need a name.
Yeah,
we'll work on a name. That's where we're gonna go. We're gonna go figure out our name. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Bryan.
My name's Amelia.
And this is our Twitch. See you soon. Let's go on this raid in 3, 2, 1, and raid!